What's going on, Victory Life Peace? I'm your host, owner, and founder, Dwight Vick, host of the Vicktory Life Legacy Spotlight series. And today I'm joined by a great sports family, two gentlemen who I've known for quite some time, two great athletes. One is a former athlete. I got today joining the show Father Julian Ross and one of his sons, the oldest son, Jayden Ross, national champion. Make sure I say that correctly, national champion, Jayden Ross. Gentlemen, how you doing today? You
Good.
guys
Doing
good?
great. Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's good to have you both on, man. So let's jump into it, man, because ladies and gentlemen, when you see this, when I post this, Jayden took some time out. He's over at the facility getting shots up, already getting ready for next year. So the grind never stops, man. So Julian, I'll start with you, man. We were just talking before I hit recorded about, you being a father and having kids, because you have three sons and also your daughter, right?
Yes.
And they're everywhere, Spooky Nuke and all that. Do you and your wife ever get tired?
Oh yeah. We that's like kind of the constant state. Like I was telling you, it's just never stops. I was back and forth to Baltimore this weekend. She was in Spooky Nook with my daughter Juliana, who's actually playing ninth grade on a Under Armour circuit. She's in seventh grade, but playing ninth grade.
Ooh.
So that was kind of a good experience for her, and she got the opportunity to see all the coaches and that are at the live period and experienced that as a seventh grader. So it was good, and she played well. And my youngest son, Jameson, who plays at Patriot, he was at Pittsburgh at Pitt Fest. So we constantly are. I guess it's steady state, just tired all the time, but
Yeah.
that's what we do.
Now, before I get to Jaden, I want to ask you this, man. You have really great. You got a beautiful family. Shout out to your wife, great mother. I see you guys going back to days of middle school battles and all of that great stuff. Um, Deion Sanders has a family, sports family like you. Do you rank your children like Deion does, Julian? Do you have, do you rank Jaden, Jameson?
No, I do
you,
not do that.
you
Just
don't rank
because
them?
they're if they are all close in age, but no, they're all different. You know, and I'm pretty sure every kids develop differently. Um, different stages. Some are late bloomers, some are early bloomers. But no, I don't rank kids. No.
No, okay. I had to ask that, man, because Dion, he has a ranking system. I heard him on XM radio one time. I was like, that's wild. But then I thought about it. It kind of motivated them to, because siblings are competitive, man. But
Yeah.
Jayden, man, thanks for jumping on, man. I know you're very busy, man. I've seen your maturation process on and off the court. I guess I was just joking with you guys before we went live and recorded that I remember you running around catching the screen and all y'all playing and the 5 overtime games. We had the battle we had with y'all won. I'm still sick about it, but you have evolved into you have evolved into a phenomenal basketball player, but yet you remain humble, man. Just take it back, to high school. And just, what did you do to get to the point to get selected by UConn in the process? Because a lot of times we see the highlights, the dunks, the head taps, the shots, all the work, but there's a process. What was that process like for you?
It was definitely a long and steady process that began early. My parents got me into sports at an early age. I probably joined my first basketball league at probably like 5, maybe 4. And then I really started to take it serious probably end of elementary school. And then working through middle school was tough because I was always a smaller player. Just staying in the gym and staying consistent. There's a lot of times, you don't even know if you want to play the sport anymore, and it gets tough. I remember a few times in middle school, trying to play some of the top competition. It didn't get too much burn. So you just have to kind of like play with your local team, get some bump. I didn't know how good I'd end up being. So you just kind of gotta trust the process, stay consistent, and I think that consistency is ultimately what helped me get here.
No doubt, man. That's actually a great way to look at it. But a lot of guys and female players don't always have that patience, but yet you did, and it paid off huge for you. When you talk about trusting the process, you see videos on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram with guys in the gym, and they talking about the grind never stops, and they're working hard. But all hard workers aren't created the same, man. Just talk about your workout regimen. I know you from when you and your brothers were youngins. I've seen you. My son trained with you, with our guy Cliff Gorham. Shout out to Cliff Gorham. There were a lot of days you guys were in there with us. A lot of ballers in there. Was it just doing that, or was it even stuff that your dad had you doing, or did you have other trainers that you work with?
I've definitely worked with a number of trainers that have helped me get to where I'm at. I say Cliff is definitely the main guy that's been most consistent with me and helped me get to this point. But yeah, I'd say just staying consistent. It gets tough. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of times where you're not sure you want to go in or even just like touch a ball some days. But ultimately, that consistency is what helps you get to where you're at. And like I said, it's hard. You got to have a why. You got to go with some type of motivation. I think a lot of mine goes to, we kind of talked about it earlier, probably goes to my parents, just because of how much they put into us traveling all over the place, helping us get to different places. And I remember going back to the point about doing stuff outside of those workouts, just doing a lot of stuff on my own. I think COVID was a big time for me. That helped me grow, because maybe a lot of people would have stopped there and just kind of put it to rest. You don't really know what's going to happen. And I remember I took a lot of that time to just get in better shape. I grew a lot during that time, and my dad helped me. And my dad and Coach Cliff helped me develop my game a lot during that time as well. I remember days when my dad would make me go run or go in the basement and lift, go do some sprinting drills, stuff like that. Little stuff like that, man. I mean, it all builds up. All the little pieces to my game is all built up to what I am now. So I'm really appreciative for them of that.
No, man, that's. I'm glad you're appreciative, man, because it's a fine line. You got some dads out there that go full Joe Jackson, LeVar Ball, but then at the same time, you got some dads who know how to pull back and when to push you. But before I jump back to your father, did you know, and everyone watching, I don't know if everyone watching when they see this, do you know how good your dad was as a football player? Because he was a great football player, played at Rutgers, the team not so much. But he was coming off that edge, and he was our stuff was on VHSF, VHS, you got to put the tape in and all that. Are you aware, you and your brothers aware, your sister aware of how good he was?
I feel like I have a good idea. I see some newspapers and whatnot. I haven't seen any direct film, though. I got to see some film. I've seen some basketball. He was pretty good at basketball. And
okay.
But I have an idea of how good he was. I have yeah.
No doubt. Julian, man, being a father, it never stops. Even when they get off to college and UConn, and I've known you for a long time. I remember we first met at Grizzly Field, and we talked about you playing against my cousin Mike Vick, and we talked about our goals for our children. It wasn't just about sports; it was about giving them the best life possible. You and your wife have done a great job in doing that, and it's not going to stop just with Jayden. With that being said, the recruiting process was much different when you and I played. I remember me, you, Cam Cole's dad, Ron Cole, we were all talking at one of Cliff's workouts about things we were doing and trying to find the right fit. You've done a great job, but for the parents that are going to see this, man, what kind of feedback do you have, and what are some of the things that you guys did to help Jayden get to the point where he's at? Because I know there's a lot of misinformation out there. Go here, do this, train here. You shouldn't say much at a game, be quiet. I mean, what was your style? What was your process?
So being recruited as a football player, football recruitment, especially when we were recruited back in the day versus basketball now, is completely different. So I was kind of like a fish out of water. I was lucky enough. One of the assistant coaches, so just to go back, and one of Jayden's first offers that was supposed to be was with the University of Cincinnati, where my brother played football at.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of, that coach, that assistant coach for Cincinnati kind of gave me the lay of the land for basketball. Was different because I think one of his good friends was a coach, or is a coach at UCLA. So he was like, hey, look, he basically gave me the lay of the land and one of the major points, and it kind of goes into our decision on why Jayden, or Jayden's decision on going to UConn was that the difference between, and you'll appreciate this, Dwight, is between football and basketball. Like football, you need your position coach pushing for you, your offensive coordinator or your defensive coordinator pushing for you. Like if they love you, you're good. Basketball, he said that it doesn't matter if it's a assistant coach. That can be a good thing, but you want the head coach to love you. That's the main difference between football and basketball. So I kind of learned that, was lucky enough, to have that conversation with that coach and giving me the lay of the land and how to prioritize what schools, to take kind of seriously, in the process. So it was all new to me, because it's a completely different process. And now, even to this point, like we get calls from the UConn coaches, all the time, like either me or my wife, like Coach Murray will call, or Coach Moore, or sometimes Coach Hurley. And I'm just thinking to myself, I was like, man, none of my coaches ever called my parents. This is different. And but yeah, the recruiting process, for basketball, and every sport is different, but like you just got to get a feel for it, I would say, and ask the right questions, and try to get a good feel of, their approach. How often are they calling you? Like how well, like, it was kind of hard. A lot of us, we had a lot of schools recruiting Jayden, and they had a lot of good rapport with us, and they knew a lot about our personal life, Jayden's friends, and they just have that knowledge, so they're paying attention and they know. So it's like extra tough. It was extra tough. It's like, all these good coaches, they really did a good job. So you just got to go with your feeling. And I think why Jayden decided to go with UConn is what the original that coach from Cincinnati told us. The head coach has got to love you, and I guess we could kind of get into that later on. Jayden's recruitment with UConn. It was with Coach Hurley just happening to come across his court that he's playing at a tournament in Atlantic City, and at the time he was playing 16s, and just kind of fell in love with Jayden, and that's the head coach, and that's what they said on our recruiting trip. Like, hey, look, that kind of resonated with us as parents. Like the coaches sat there, like one of the assistant coaches sat there and say, hey, look, you got head coach led recruiting. It doesn't get better than that.
No.
And so we don't have to convince him. He's already convinced. It's rare you get that. So I guess from there, the decision was kind of easy, but that played a big role with us. So
no doubt. No, and Jayden, how tall are you now, man? Are you 6'8"?
I'll give myself 6'8", somewhere between 6'7", 6'8".
Yeah, I don't know. TV, you look longer, man. And I know me and your dad were talking. We were waiting you to jump on, man. Like he was talking about how tall you gotten, and I know it's crazy. Them growth spurts is crazy because the same thing happened with my son over COVID, man. Like he just grew 6 inches. And it's crazy how that happens, man. And that's always a great thing in basketball, especially a sport where that length helps. But your dad mentioned UConn and Coach Dan Hurley. I I'm old enough to remember watching Dan Hurley play against his brother Bobby Hurley. I grew up. I was born at Duke. I was a huge Duke fan since like 1989. So I remember watching them, and I remember Dan Hurley. Next thing I know, look up, he's coaching at UConn. His brother is also a great coach, Bobby Hurley. But you play for him, man. You know, I see clips on Twitter. I'm always on Twitter. I see clips of him on social media, and he is such a straightforward, honest coach. And he gives like all these gems, as you guys say, bars, like out there, just, you know, talking about accountability and things. But I don't know him. You are a freshman there. You were part of a great freshman class. Two-part question. What drew you personally to play at UConn, to sign with them? And also, how has this experience been in your first year there?
I think the main thing was kind of like my dad already mentioned, was like just like the connection with the coaches. And I think what you said, it was pretty spot on. Like, you don't want a coach that's gonna like fluff kind of just like their opinions and like respect for you, because obviously, as you see in the past few years, these coaches, they know what they're doing, and you want to be around those types of people. You can learn a lot from those types of people, and they produce a lot of great players as well. So they have the blueprint, and you know, as long as you just come in and give 110% effort every single day, you're in the gym with them, you know it's going to lead to a greater position than where you're at when you came in. And I think that's all you can ask for, is just for them to, you know, help you develop not only as a player but as a man. And just being a part of this experience is like, one, just like surreal. Like, it's just like what dreams are made of. Like, I remember running out in the Final Four, and we're running out on this tiny court in a football stadium. I'm like, whoa, like this is where this has got me. It's crazy. But you know, it takes a lot of work to get there. Being kind of in the role that I was in this year, I was more in like a developmental role. I played a little earlier on, and then you know, it just kind of came to the decision that I would just kind of learn a lot this year and just develop. I definitely learned a lot about the game that I didn't know coming in. But every day is a grind, man. Every practice is so difficult. It's long, and it's just so intense. And I feel like that's the best way to go about it, because a lot of these other schools, you know, great programs, I don't think anybody practices as hard as we do. So I think that's what the benefit is of being here. And the last thing is that the coaches are bought in pretty much year round. Like we talk about it, this is a 11-month year program. Like the only real month we take off is May. And as soon as June starts, June workouts, all the coaches are in, every single one of them, every single day, all the way up to Coach Hurley every single day with 100% intensity. And I feel like that's why we benefited so much last year coming in with the roster that we did. Great, we brought in a great roster, and then just we worked for so long from the beginning of June. We talk about it every day from the beginning of the June. Nobody worked for that long as hard as we did. So, man, it's been an amazing ride for sure.
Definitely a blessing, man. I was looking for you. One of my favorite parts of March Madness is the end of the night after the national championship game. I always look for one shining moment. I love that, man. I'm like, oh, I was looking for you. I didn't know if they would catch you, but at the same time, man, you talk about that great experience and what a blessing it is, and how you're appreciating every moment and the hard work. Touch a little bit about this, and this is, I don't need the UConn secrets or scouting report or schemes. I'm more so talking about culture, because you don't win championships without culture and expectations. A lot of kids here, you know, you're from the mecca of high school basketball, the DMV. You know, when you talk about the DMV, Coach Jay Wright, who just recently retired from Villanova, talked about how he always went to DC, Maryland, Virginia to get players. And the DMV, you and I and your dad know tons of guys on the come up, tons of guys that are your years. You go back to the 70s and 80s. But at the same time, all cultures and programs aren't created the same. So a lot of these kids coming up don't realize what you just said about the grind never stops and the hard work. And when you talk about like that, just give a snapshot of a schedule. You talk about, you know, you're at the facility right now. When we're done recording, you're going to get shots up. Talk about the level of commitment and what that means as far as the work ethic and grind you need? Because a lot of kids think it's just about going and getting under the shooting machine or, going up to Lifetime Athletic and getting some shots up. What do you mean?
Oh man, it's a really strong culture, I remember it hit me the first day I walked in here. I remember my first day I got here, and I was rooming with Donovan Klingon at the time, and he's telling me, he's like, yo, I'm gonna head over there at 6 a.m. You want to ride? I'm like, all right, yeah, this is what I'm getting myself into. So we went there the next morning, and Alex Caravan's already in there. A few other people are already in there. Maybe Samson. And I'm like, okay, people are already working out, and it's like, anytime you walk in the gym here, there's somebody in there working out, like getting better, or in the weight room, getting better at something. And there's not a single person, I'd say, on this program that isn't like that. And I think that's what makes the culture so strong. The coaches do a great job of recruiting players that are like that, or can grow into be like that, or to, one day, something I'm looking to do to continue to build on and carry the culture in that way. But everybody works so hard and is completely bought in, especially during the season. Like, coaches are here from sun up to sundown every single day. And that's what more can you ask for? They're completely bought in, whether on the court, you're watching film, doing something. You're always doing something to benefit the team. And it's a really big, we're really big on giving everything here. So I don't know. The culture here is just insane. It's a great culture to be around.
No doubt. So you saying y'all going 3-peat? Don't answer that. Don't answer that. I don't want this to get on the ears. Oh, Jayden Ross promises 3-peat. You'll be trending online and everything, man. But I hope you guys do. I hope, I really do. I love watching UConn play. My wife had you guys on all February. Every time I came home from a game, you guys were on. And a lot of times I'll be in the hallway and your mom would have the phone up and she'd be looking at so you got a lot of people up here in Northern Virginia rooting for you in the UConn program. Julian, when you talk about your role as his father, when he was being recruited, you didn't negotiate and talk that NIL, I need a cut piece, did you? Or did you get it's much different, or did you take a step back and allow him to figure things out? I know you and his mom were all in, but what was your role even throughout the season? Words of encouragement. You said the coaches always called you, but like your role as a dad.
So, and I guess the first part of that, the NIL, we didn't really go into it with that mindset of, hey, we're going to go somewhere where we could get the most NIL money. Actually, we never even, on all of our recruiting trips, we never even brought it up.
Good. Okay.
UConn kind of brought it up with us, but they didn't say, like, it was kind of a general thing. And that's another thing that's different. And I think I know I saw Dan Hurley say this publicly, so it's out there, but he said, one of his things is like, we don't want, kids coming here for NIL, but we don't want to lose them for NIL either, once they're here. So, that's the difference. I don't think even, and me just being around the limited time, I should say I was around the players a decent amount of time during the season. I wouldn't say too much because obviously I got, like you were saying before, 3 other kids that I'm chasing around. So, but they all down to earth. They're not about that, and very unselfish. Like, it's like he said, it's a culture, and it's like all the kids are great kids. All the players are great kids. Like, they all love each other. After the game, we're there to see Jayden. we know Solo because Jayden's played with Solo at St. James and
Yeah.
Mello. Of course, he'll come over, but like Steph Castle, like all the players will come over and say hi and talk to us like as if we're there every day. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just you don't get that at every program. I noticed that that's kind of another thing piece to the recruiting, which was a little bit different with UConn. Is like Andre Jackson was, great, just down to earth, and they legitimately appeared as if they cared for Jayden, like they really wanted him there, and that was a different piece. Like you got that genuine feel, like he can help us when we want him. I can't say that for every program we went on every visit. It was kind of like he's coming for a spot, like it was an awkward type of thing. You know what I mean? So that part was different also, and it's easier to just say and hear it like it's a culture, but it really is like you can't. It's something like and you hear it, but you really don't understand until you're there. Like it is a culture, and like they genuinely care for each other as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When real quick, we're almost done. I know Jayden's got to get that workout on, but I do want to ask, because I know I don't want no coaches texting me. But when you look back, I follow you. We're friends on Facebook as well, Julian, and I saw your pictures, and I've been seeing him and his brothers dunk in their first. I mean, I DM you all the time. I'm talking about going back 6-7 years. So I remember the night of the game. I hurried home so I can watch UConn play, and I love. People don't realize I love college football and basketball more than I love the pros. And I saw you take a picture from the Final Four, and I'm like, oh, I'm hating. Yeah. I'm jealous. I'm hating. I wanted to be there. I mean, I'm like, that is a bucket list event. Just really quickly, man, briefly, how was that? I see you shaking your head. Like, was it crazy?
Yes, it was crazy. I'll tell you what, like, just the experience, like, I would say the first experience this season where I was just like amazed, like, was our trip out to Kansas. Like that atmosphere was insane. Like that's a bucket list thing.
Yeah.
The Final Four. Like we've played, like Dwight, we've played in football stadiums. You know what I mean? We played in 80, 90,000 in front of thousands of people. It's different because it's a basketball court. So they have to build you lose all that football field. And they fill that with stands, and it's you know what I mean? So it's different. It was an experience. Where we were sitting, it was like court level because the court is raised. But yeah, just that experience and being there is just, I'm still like just thinking about it. It's just like, it's crazy. Like I've watched March Madness since I could remember. And like only like, obviously, I wasn't good enough to get there to play. I was a football player, but man, to have your kid have that opportunity to be there and experience that as a parent was just amazing.
No doubt.
It was just amazing, just a great experience. Like, and for them to win it.
I know. I mean,
that's crazy.
They solidified themselves. You talking about Duke, Florida, and UConn. Yeah. I mean, back to back, man. I mean, and people don't realize this. I know this going back 20-something, 30 years, man. Basketball purists or fans like myself know that Dan Hurley and Bob Hurley's dad is a legendary coach. I watched a documentary on him years ago, man. That guy coaches in their DNA, man. So I'm glad you got a chance to experience. Yeah.
Real quick, I'm from New Jersey, obviously.
Yeah.
My older brother played against Dan Hurley when he was a freshman. I think Dan Hurley was a senior. And so I can remember them playing them up at San Anthony. And I was probably in like 4th grade. And just it was packed, and they ended up losing to him. But like, no, like, yeah, his dad was a legend. Obviously, I grew up watching that school and that pedigree. Like I've grown, like, and I told Jayden this when we were recruiting. I was like, I don't think you understand. Like I grew up watching these guys, like his brother, his dad. Like this is insane, and now him. You know,
Yeah.
yes,
But yeah, it's crazy. I remember watching Dan Hurley against Bobby because Dan played at, I believe, Seton Hall. They met up in the tournament, man. I don't want to misquote, but I'm pretty sure I remember that. I'm getting old, but
yeah.
just back to you, Jayden, and then we can sign off, man. But I was talking to your dad, not just before we went live and recorded, but also throughout the season. Your youngest brother's at Patriot, and his head coach Sherman Rivers posted some clips in his story of your brother, and I DM'd Sherman. I was like, hey man, he got next. He had a vicious block on a dunk, then he's banging it, and he's boogieing with it. And I'm like, brother, what? The Ross family has established itself as one of those sports families like the Abrahams, those sports families that, people talk about. But you're in a position to have perspective. You're the oldest. And, like Spider-Man, that comes with great responsibility, right? But at the same time, that perspective can be resourceful. Not to be the overbearing big brother or to always drop knowledge, but with your sisters and younger brother, all athletes, do y'all talk? You have a family group chat, or when you come back home, besides the gear and just talking, do you say, hey man, this is something I learned on the circuit or, in traveling at UConn and practice? Do you drop some gems on them and give them feedback?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like the one I probably do it with the most, just because I understand the situation, is Jacob. He'll call me a little more. He's about to be a senior in high school. He's going through the recruitment process, so he'll call me sometimes, let me know what's going on, ask me questions, and I'm telling him everything I know, because he's starting to get to that point where he's about to go to college soon. So he's trying to figure out what it's like, how he's going to need to adjust, what he needs to do. And then Jameson, he probably he hit that growth spurt.
Is it a good ooh, or what is that? That's a good thing?
Yeah. He hit that little growth spurt. I remember I don't know what the time period was. There was one time it was like I still seen him as like, a little 12-year-old, 11-year-old kid. He's not doing much. He needs to get stronger. Like he's still really weak. He can barely shoot. And then it was probably first night when y'all came up here, and I was like, whoa, like he's like here almost.
Yeah.
And like, okay. And now I'm starting to see him. He's getting a little stronger. He's getting a little more comfortable with it. And he'll ask me some questions time to time. Like he'll text me. And then I know when I come back in May for sure, I'm gonna definitely try and help both of them out as much as I can in terms of just everything I've learned throughout this year and knowing the positions they've been in.
No doubt. And that's just, again, an additional support and blessing to have. I didn't ask you this before, but I'm going to squeeze this question in. Is there a player on the collegiate level, even at UConn or even in the NBA, Jayson Tatum, is there somebody you check for when they play, or somebody you watch growing up, or even in recent years, or someone say, okay, I'm a model something after them, or do you take from everybody's game?
I feel like I try to take from everybody's game. It's funny you said Jayson Tatum because I definitely watch him the most.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, for sure. Him, like Kevin Durant. Like the more I've grown as a player, and I've kind of identified who I'll be as a basketball player, I try to target those types of players. So like when I was younger in middle school, I was a shorter guard. I liked watching guys like John Wall or Chris Paul or a little like shorter guards, a little athletic, some speed. As I started to grow into a lengthier like guard, possibly could play a little forward, just those types of versatile, shooting like types of players that are like, around my height. So I try to like isolate those types of players and watch them and steal from them, because those are the most types of players I can relate with.
No doubt. Last question, man, and we're gonna do my sign off. But when you look at this coming work you're putting in this coming year, you talked about May you'll be home, but I know you're gonna work out when you come home. You guys have a great class coming in again. You were part of a very great class. Obviously, a lot of people feel like you guys can make another run. I know with Coach Dan Hurley from afar down here in Virginia, the grind never stops. The staff is very, very good. You're in a great situation. But individually, even though it's a team game, what are your individual goals, and what do you want to get better at moving forward as this next season comes up, just for yourself?
I feel like the biggest thing for me right now is continue to get stronger. We play in one of the most physical conferences in the country, I'd say. I'm watching it day in and night out. There's not a lot of foul calls, and you got to be strong for sure. So that I'd say is one thing. I'd say more consistency with my jump shot. Shooting in high school and shooting in college is two completely different things. Not only because the lines move back, but you got dudes flying at you. You got less time to put shots up. And, playing on a great team like I did last year, you don't have many shots to put up either because you got so many great players around you. So, you got to make the ones that you have and you can take. So those two things. And I want to take on more of like a guard role, 2-3. So just tightening up my handle a little bit is something that I want to get better at, as well as positionless kind of guarding like 1 through 4, getting stronger so I can guard those bigger forwards, but also while I can improve my lateral quickness so I can guard the fastest guards as well. So I'd say those are the main things.
I love it, man. You listed a lot, man. You locked in, man. Some guys be like, yeah, I'm working my free throws, Yeah, you named a lot, man. And knowing you and seeing your maturation process, I have no doubt you're going to put that work in, man. I want to thank you both for jumping on, man. I mean, this has been really good. I know we could keep going, but you got work to do. Your dad's got chilling to do. I got a little bit of both to do, but appreciate you guys, man. That's Jayden Ross and his father, Julian Ross, the Ross family, man. Keep an eye on them. Not just Jayden, but his brothers, his sister. This is a basketball sports family, but most importantly, they're a loving and caring family, man. I appreciate you guys for jumping on. To my subscribers, and if this is your first time watching, hit that subscribe button, share, like it. We have great guests coming on like this all the time. And like I say every episode, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, make sure you have a positive impact and you leave a great legacy. I'm Dwight Vick. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.